Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was an unidentified killer in the London area where 5 women were killed: Mary Ann Nichols, Amy Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. What makes the case so infamous wasn't just the crimes, but the mystery surrounding them, as the killer was never caught. The nickname came from letters supposedly sent to the police and newspaper during the investigation. Over a century later, people, historians, and investigators are still debating who the killer could be, making this one of the most infamous unsolved cases in true crime history. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer, active in 1974 and 1978. Bundy was responsible for killing at least 30 young women across several states, though investigators believe the number is much higher. Bundy appeared to have a normal life and even appeared to seem charming. He often approached victims pretending to be injured or in need of help, gaining trust from the victims before attacking. Investigators linked him to multiple disappearances, which led to his execution in 1989. Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Monster or Milwaukee Cannibal, was an active American killer from 1978 to 1991, in which during that time frame, he murdered 17 young men and boys. Dahmer would approach victims in public, using money and drinks as an offer to come back to his apartment. His case went undisclosed for years until 1991, when an intended victim escaped and alerted police. Police searched his home and found overwhelming evidence that revealed the murders, and Dahmer was sent to life in prison and would eventually die in prison. John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was a killer active in the 70s when he killed at least 33 young men and boys in the Chicago area. Gacy would dress up as a clown to attend children's birthday parties and was active in community events. He appeared to have a normal life, but behind that was a cold-blooded, degenerate killer. Through the disappearances, detectives thought he was a suspect, so they searched his home and found unconvincing evidence that led him to many victims. The bodies were buried underneath his home. Gacy was later sentenced to death. Aileen Wuornos. Wuornos is one of the most notorious female serial killers in true crime history. Between 1989 and 1990, she killed 7 men across highways in Florida. Many of her victims, who were drivers, had picked her up while she was working as a hitchhiker and a sex worker along the interstate. She claimed she acted in self-defense, saying the men tried to harm her, but investigators said the killings were part of a pattern. She was arrested in 1991 after police linked her to the crimes through evidence connected to the victims' belongings. The case drew attention because of her troubled life and the unusual nature of a female killer. Wuornos was convicted of the murders and was executed in 2002. Richard Ramirez. The Night Stalker was an active killer in California between 1984 and 1985. He targeted victims in their own home, often breaking in at night, and his attacks were random, which caused a widespread panic across the state. His crimes were brutal and varied, including murder, sexual assault, and arson. On August 31st, 1985, Ramirez stepped into a liquor store and saw his face on the front of a newspaper. A woman in the store recognized him and yelled. He fled and tried to hijack a car, and when he crashed it, a mob of angry civilians beat him bloody, nearly killing him. Ramirez was sentenced to death after killing 13 people. Gary Ridgway. The Green River Killer was an active killer in Washington during the 1980s and 1990s. Ridgway targeted vulnerable women, many of them doing sex work or struggling with addiction. He would pick up his victims, often strangling them and disposing their bodies in remote areas in the Green River. Ridgway evaded for years due to his careful planning and ability to blend into society. He was arrested in 2001 through DNA evidence connecting him to multiple killings. Ridgway would end up confessing to 49 murders, though he claimed there was more, making him one of the deadliest killers in human history. David Berkowitz. The son of Sam terrorized New York City in 1976 and 1977. Berkowitz carried out a series of shootings targeting young couples, creating widespread panic across the city. What made the case ever more chilling were the letters he sent to the police and the media, taunting authorities and fueling public panic. The nickname came from the letters. Berkowitz called himself the Son of Sam. His randomness made him hard to track down, but he was eventually arrested in 1977 when investigators traced a parking ticket near one of the crime scenes back to him. He was arrested and sentenced to multiple life sentences. The BTK Killer. Dennis Rader terrorized the city of Wichita between 1974 and 1991. The name BTK stands for Blind Torture Kill, which he used to describe his crimes in letters he sent to the police and media. He killed 10 victims through their own homes. Rader appeared to have a normal life. a family man, church-going person, but behind that was a deep, dark secret. After years of silence, he resurfaced in the early 2000s by sending more messages, which led to his capture in 2005 through digital evidence. Rader later confessed and was sentenced to multiple life sentences. H. Holmes. Holmes is often called America's first ever serial killer. He operated in the 1890s in Chicago. He built a multi-story building known as the Murder Castle during the 1893 World's Fair, which was secretly designed with trapdoors, hidden rooms, and soundproof chambers to kill and unseal his victims. Holmes lured people, often young women seeking work, into his hotel and used the twisted design to kill. Estimates of his victims vary, but historians believe he may have killed dozens, if not more. He was eventually caught in 1894 and was executed in 1896. The combination of his cunning, premeditation, and the eerie architecture of his castle has made him one of the most infamous killers in history.